uncovering the truth behind the underrepresented African resistance during slavery's dark era.
That enslaved people accepted their fate without resistance.
I always say that the South lost the Civil War militarily, but they won ideologically. Mhm. And the myths surrounding the nature and character of Black people emanate primarily from the South, as Black people being criminals, we have criminalization of the race, uh, as you said, the docility, the ignorance, the genuine acceptance of slavery by these people. And again, we talking a couple hundred years. So at different points, you're going to see different activities. Like you'll see a peak of revolts, like in the 1700s, mid 1700s, all the way up to the 1800s, into the end of slavery. Well, what happened those first 200 years? Well, number one, y'all, people were dazed. They were traumatized. They didn't know what was going on. They're torn from their family. They're coming, and then by the time you get up to the third generation, you did have some Black people that accepted their fate. They believe, hey, I was a slave, I'm a slave, my parents were slaves, my grandparents were slaves. That's all they could see. They could not see it. If you would have asked a Black person in 1800 if they thought they were ever going to be free, they would say no, right? They didn't see it. It's just like when we ask Black people today, you think you're ever going to get reparations? No, you can't see it, right? That was their fate. So you're going to have all kinds of stories, but I believe resistance took place every day in a number of different forms. Slowdowns, poisoning. You notice in these old movies, before white people got ready to eat, they always had a Black person taste their food first. Fires. That's a big one. Setting things on fire. New York almost burned down. Montreal, they were just burnt. Uh, of course, killing the masters, having these revolts. So they were running away. There are many, many, many forms of resistance, but we're taught in order to perpetuate our inferiority and subordination to white people that in general we are lazy, docile, and accepting of our condition. That's just to maintain us. But Black people fought from the very beginning, and I have on the map 263 revolts on land. Those are documented. Now the problem is these are the ones that are documented in English. Okay, but remember we got the Portuguese, we got the French, we have the Dutch. So yeah, doing research in those languages in those areas, we could uncover many more. Also, remember the whites did not want Blacks to find out about the revolt. So a lot of the information is not publicized, or they didn't put it in newspapers. So it's a process of uncovering, which I look at this project as ongoing. And everywhere I go, I try to go to the museums, talk to people to see if I can uncover more revolts. And Eric Taylor, in his book, If We Must Die, he documented 500, and this is just English speaking, 500 revolts on ships. All right. So there was probably, 10 times that amount. And it was because of those revolts that we actually have the end of enslavement. And, the history we're taught is, oh, it was the white abolitionists who freed us. That was a part of it. But the major part were those revolts. They were expensive. People were dying. People were afraid. They had to come to some consensus.
How empowering was it for you when you started to learn about these revolts?
It was very empowering, especially the women. And I always get asked, what about the women? To see, how what they came up with and the lengths they went through to have these revolts. It was just amazing to me. And I started the project being an A-level historian. Because I'm really truly a political scientist, but I really thought I knew a lot about history. But I just learned so much, and I think one thing that also empowered me in a kind of perverse way, or the punishments. to see what they went through and what the trauma of watching you're watching people being buried alive and one bone broken at a time and whipped 700 times, and what did that do to our ancestors? You know, why would you put yourself through that? You know, their stamina, their to even take the risk. They were like, I'm not doing this, you know. So yeah, it was very empowering. But then yeah, at some points I had to back off. It got a little much for me.
Can you speak about Solitude out of Guadalupe?
Oh yeah,
The
yeah, that's a
pregnant woman
good
that led the
one.
resistance.
Yeah, that's a good one. 1802 in Guadeloupe. There was a woman, Solitude. She was about 30 years old and she was visibly pregnant. So we could say maybe she was about 7 months pregnant. She, along with a military man named Delgras, planned a revolt. What they did was they lured the French into a fort and blew it up. And 400 Frenchmen were killed. And all her people were killed. But she was captured alive. And once the baby was born, it was given to her master. And then she was executed in their language, unimaginable ways. Mhm.